Opponents of a strict photo ID requirement for voting in North Carolina gathered at the state legislature on Wednesday to voice their concerns that such a measure could disenfranchise hundreds of thousands of state voters.
We believe voter identification laws are a form of voter suppression. It will do irreparable harm to the fundamental rights of all people in North Carolina: black people, white people, disabled people, poor people, older people, students.
The state chapter of the NAACP joined with the Southern Coalition for Social Justice, the ACLU of North Carolina, and Democracy North Carolina to present data from the State Board of Elections showing that over 500,000 voters may lack state-issued photo ID, with a disproportionate number of those voters being young people, minorities, and senior citizens.
Seniors are 18% of the active registered voters, but they're 26% of those who don't have an ID. Senior citizens, obviously, people that have stopped driving. They don't have their ID. They've misplaced it. They've lost it. They don't have any use for it. Right. They've been voting for 40 years. They go to the polls, and now you're going to tell them they got to have a photo ID? Why? What is the sense to do that? Why does the state want to spend millions of dollars to put in a stupid barrier for people who are legitimate voters?
Under current law, North Carolina voters are required to provide a form of identification upon registering to vote. Acceptable identification could be the last 4 digits of the voter's Social Security number, a driver's license number, or a document showing the voter's name and current address, such as a bank statement or utility bill. When going to the polls, voters then sign a form affirming their identity. Anyone found guilty of voter fraud faces a felony conviction.
We have the best law already. Signature attestation with a 5-year felony. Right. And it's working.
That type of fraud is so minuscule, you are more likely to be hit by lightning than have it happen that somebody is going to walk in front of a polling place and impersonate you under penalty.
The opponents of a new photo ID requirement to vote also point to the potential cost of its enactment at a time when North Carolina continues to struggle economically.
The cost is not only related to the constitutional requirement that the state provide free ID to indigent residents, but also cost is involved with voter outreach and education, so voters know that they have to bring ID with them to vote. Also, the staff, election workers have to be trained on how to implement the new law. There's administrative costs and provisional ballot costs. So we question the need for such expensive measures in a time when we really should be focusing on lifting North Carolinians up out of poverty.
Legislative Republicans, who control both chambers of the General Assembly, have said they will take up a voter photo ID bill during this year's session, and new Republican Governor Pat McCrory has indicated his support for increased voter ID requirements.
And we're saying to the Republican Party and anybody, resist the extremists and let's go forward and do what's best. We should not even be having a discussion about voter ID. We have the best law already, signature attestation, which is a Republican-Democrat compromise.